We are the Meltdown here with yet another retro trailer reaction. This series looking to reintroduce and put the spotlight on some notable movies from previous years. All of the choices within this series have been hand-selected by the Meltdown crew. Some of these selections include some of us completing first-time watches, and some include those timeless classics that we may have all seen numerous times. Join us throughout all of Season 1 for a look at the retro trailers and the discussions that follow. Today's entry is one where we plan to drop the hammer in 1990's Days of Thunder, starring Tom Cruise, Robert Duvall, Michael Rooker, Randy Quaid, Nicole Kidman, and John C. Reilly, and it's directed by Tony Scott. Quentin Tarantino says this film is his favorite big-budget racing movie, stating, quote, "I just don't think it works if you take the whole thing too seriously." The future of turning this film into a franchise has been a discussion point for years now. Sports Business Journal has been doing some reporting on this very subject, in February publishing a story about NASCAR being open to participating in a Days of Thunder sequel if the opportunity presents itself, as COO Steve O'Donnell confirmed that fact for the first time to SBJ's Adam Stern. Last summer, entertainment news website Giant Freakin' Robot reported that Cruise and Top Gun Maverick director Joseph Kosinski were collaborating once more on Days of Thunder 2. In 2022, The Hollywood Reporter said that Cruise had declined a request to create a Days of Thunder series for Paramount Plus, and Giant Freakin' Robot added, quote, "Considering what we've learned, it's tempting to speculate that assuming THR's report was accurate, Tom Cruise may have said no to the Days of Thunder series because of the possibility of Days of Thunder 2. This suggests that Cruise retains the rights to the IP of the film and would have to agree to the sequel. NASCAR also retains close ties with Days of Thunder producer Jerry Bruckheimer. He served as the Grand Marshal at the Rolex 24 at Daytona, and NASCAR Holdings IMSA Sports Car Series worked closely with Bruckheimer and his Apple Films crew as they shot scenes for the F1 themed film coming out next year. So with that, let me introduce our panel. I am Meltdown host Tim Melton. That is my co-host, Mr. John Lunsford.
Rubbins Racing, don't let those Formula One pansies tell you otherwise.
Our producer is Tyler Johns.
This was like watching Top Gun with wheels.
And then we have, finally, our cherished Meltdown contributor, Rockstar, who you see daily on The Next Round.
Cole, we're out here eating ice cream. Ice cream? We're eating ice cream.
This film was John's selection. So why, John, did you pick 1990's Days of Thunder?
Would you believe it if that ice cream scene actually happened? Because it did actually happen in real life. This movie seems very wild and outlandish, and stuff like that wouldn't necessarily happen in racing. And a vast majority of this actually happened within racing. A lot of these characters are actually based off real people. Even his name he's not based off Dick Trickle, but Cole Trickle is the name that ended up leading to that. And yes, that is a real driver's name. You have Randy Quaid playing Rick Hendrick. You have Fred Thompson playing Big Bill France, but he's Big John in this one. So they just try to change little bits of the name in there. Michael Rooker's Dale Earnhardt. So there's all these names, they're all patterned after real people. And this is a movie that, like you watch a movie like Talladega Nights and it's funny. You don't really care about the racing in that. The racing in this is what really draws me in, on top of the fact that it has an incredible cast in it as well. All the people that Tim named off. Obviously, it's a Tom Cruise, Nicole Kidman vehicle that ended up going places after this. There's just so much to like about this movie. I think the soundtrack is incredible. This is peak classic. Late 80s, early 90s, that just works so well. And is it Top Gun with wheels? Yes. Now, planes also have wheels on them, but I don't think that's a bad thing to be Top Gun on a NASCAR track.
Go ahead and buckle up those seatbelts and start your engines, because without any further hesitation, it is now time to unleash the retro trailer for Days of Thunder.
From, it doesn't matter which end of the car goes around the corner first. Hold on a minute. Don't you think we ought to talk? What, about how I'm going to run? Sure. Or how you manage to live as long as you have. There's nothing I can't do with a race car. You run good? Thank you. I want to see how you do in the crowd.
There needs to be a sensory warning on this.
Tell me what you love about racing so much.
Speed. Come up here and do it. I'll take you to a race.
I can't. I'm the doctor. I'm Cole.
I don't want you to hold a bad opinion of Cole. He needs reassurance from you that he's okay. And after all, you're his doctor.
How long before you find out if you're really good or you're really lucky?
Now you're scared. You're scared.
He doesn't believe you can drive anymore.
I'll take your word for what a car can do. But I'm not taking anybody's word for what I can do because nobody knows.
You get back in that car, you'll die.
There we have it. There's the trailer. From this point on, we'll be including spoilers for Days of Thunder in our discussion points. So if you'd like to watch the movie first and come back to us, feel free to save this video for later. As we saw in parts of the trailer, in the fast-paced world of NASCAR, a rivalry brews between rookie hotshot Cole Trickle and veteran racer Rowdy Burns. When both of them are seriously injured in competition, the former bitter rivals become close friends. With Cole's spirits restored by a romance with a neurosurgeon and Rowdy still sidelined by injuries, Cole decides to race Rowdy's car in the Daytona 500 against underhanded newcomer Russ Wheeler. So, Rockstar, what is your take on Days of Thunder?
Quick, Russ Wheeler, Carrie.
Elways.
Is it Elways?
I'm pretty sure it's
I think so.
Just not confident.
I've heard it pronounced a bunch of different Elways multiple times.
Elves. It's a great movie, cheesy movie, but the good kind of cheesy. I think they pulled off. One of the cheesiest moments is at the beginning, where if you're just watching it today, the puff of smoke on the track and Tom Cruise pulling up with sunglasses and a motorcycle. It's like, oh my god. I mean, that's probably the cheesiest, but overall the movie's great. But that one scene that's like kills me every time. But I thought it was great. Randy Quaid's great. John C. Reilly's great. Am I one of the only ones that when they got pulled over by the police, I thought it was real?
No, I thought it was
Yeah,
real
because
too.
that when she came, I was like, this she's getting a little handsy, and then okay, that's not. This is a little gift.
I'm sure the first time I may have thought it was
Yeah.
real, but yeah.
We
I was
may
like,
have
getting
to
pulled over is awesome.
We may have to keep a tab of which actors feature the most in season 1, because right now Randy Quaid and John C. Reilly, I think, are both tied with 2 appearances.
Keith David.
Keith David.
Keith
Oh,
David
Michael
has-
Rooker.
Michael. What else was Michael Rooker in that we've
He
done?
was. I swear he's been in something else that we've done. At least one.
I don't know.
Hey, little buddy.
I don't know.
But
anyway.
But yes, I like the movie. I love the relationship between Harry and Cole with the in him a communication with the don't do this, Cole, please. So I thought it was just a good movie. It was a good selection by John. I respect it.
Tyler.
We're doing so good until the end.
Tyler, what are some of the elements you liked and disliked about Days of Thunder?
So, I was ready to just get through this movie. I actually enjoyed it considerably more than I thought I would. One thing I didn't like, though, is the music. I know it's a Hans Zimmer score. It just sounded too much like the Top Gun score to me. So it just kind of gave off that feeling the whole movie. But overall, I liked it. It was a good kind of cheesy, like Rockstar said. I loved the cast. John C. Reilly was great. Robert Duvall was great.
Nicole Kidman's just there.
Yeah. Nicole
She's just
Kidman's just
there.
there for some reason.
Yeah, it's just doesn't really add anything.
Tyler,
It's no eyes wide shut, that's for sure.
No.
you've accused this movie of being Top Gun on a race car track, and you are completely correct. I mean, that's exactly what this was meant to be. This was designed to be that. They were going for that same amount of
But I don't necessarily think there's a problem with
There's
that.
No, I like this movie more than Top Gun. That might be a hot take, but I
do
didn't
too.
really. I
do
don't
too.
really
I do
like
too.
Top Gun.
I
to be fair.
think I do too, but I don't like either. And let me get into this, okay?
Weird.
Let me get into some of the things I did like.
So you'll love Days of Thunder Maverick then.
Yeah.
Potentially.
Days of Thunder, Cole.
There's a shot where the race is going on and there's
Trickles.
this plane in the background,
Yeah.
and it looks amazing. Like, that to me is the shot of the movie. I think that looks really, really good.
It is good.
The line "rubbing sun is racing" from Robert Duvall works. Everybody says rubbing is racing. They never throw the sun in there in the impression.
Well, so he responds back at some point.
Yeah.
Tom Cruise does and yells, "Yeah, Rubbin's racing!" So it technically is said. The
yeah.
original line, though, you're right, is said differently than what people say.
I really like that. I completely buy all of these actors as being a part of the racing scene, and I love the footage that they use of real NASCAR personalities being edited in to give it that extra authenticity. I think that works really well. The Take You Back in Time score of Days of Thunder, which was composed by Hans Zimmer, as mentioned, with Jeff Beck making a guest appearance on guitar. This was the first of many Zimmer-composed scores for a Jerry Bruckheimer production, and I think it is really good. I mean, it's definitely of its time when it's hitting you with certain notes, but it reminds me very much of the synths that we hear with our favorite band of all time, John, that being The Midnight, who also, by the way, has a song called Days of Thunder. And I appreciate the fact that Days of Thunder is something that exists, so that way it could maybe or maybe not inspire that particular track.
And I do like, to that point of like, I feel like Pirates of the Caribbean has one of the best soundtracks of all time.
Definitely.
And that is the same duo, kind of Jerry Bruckheimer, Hans Zimmer. Not all of them. I don't think he did all of them. Hans Zimmer did do all of them. But very much so of creating that music. And it's like, oh, you kind of see the beginning stages of that. Very different, obviously, in tone. But like that duo can really create good action and music together. And this
Absolutely.
Is kind of if you kind of want to see the origins of it, this kind of does that.
1,000%. It's a great runtime of about 108 minutes. It really is something that you could watch on a lazy Saturday and be completely fulfilled by. This being made before the availability of CGI, right? I mean, you feel the action in this. You really do. And that's because it's the real deal that they're having to put out there on the track and do all the filming of. Talladega Nights, a movie that I like more than this,
It's more authentic.
doesn't exist without this movie. This movie completely inspired Talladega Nights, obviously.
It's a very similar storyline.
Yeah.
With John C. Reilly being the sort of the interconnecting thread to both of those. And whenever I hear somebody say the line, like, they just don't make them like they used to when it comes to Hollywood productions, I think of this movie.
Yep.
And the whole they don't make them like they used to crowd eats this movie up, because this thing is exactly what they expected a movie to be. And these days, you don't often see a production like this on the big screen. Things I didn't like. I think the script sucks. I do. I don't think it's supposed to be that great. I think it's supposed to be just sort of generic. I don't think they put as much work into the script as I would have liked to have seen. I don't like the sport of NASCAR. I don't care anything about it.
You're going to hate this movie.
I know. I didn't care about it, even though I know that this is a film that really enhanced the popularity of the sport. The stakes of the story, didn't care about. The Daytona 500 means nothing to me personally because I don't care about the sport. And the Cruise-Kidman romance, I think, ages extremely poorly based on what you know about them off screen. It's hard for me to fall in love with their love knowing that they are, bitter enemies. And the hazing, I think, in this movie ages pretty poorly as well. It feels odd, like with the group of guys laughing around, and it feels like they're laughing, but the audience maybe is not laughing with them in this modern age. John, with this being your selection, you get the final word on Days of Thunder.
I'm honestly surprised y'all liked it as much as y'all did. I mean, I
was going to say, Tim,
I guess technically,
not a big fan.
Tim didn't like
Not a
it,
big
but
fan.
still mentioned plenty of positive things that, are part of what I like about this. Now, I grew up in an automotive family, in a racing family, grew up around NASCAR, therefore I like NASCAR, so I understand.
This looks like Tom Cruise's car.
It definitely does.
Ecto
Slide
Cooler.
Mellow Yellow on it and it'll look like it. And this movie actually led to Mellow Yellow actually sponsoring a car in NASCAR. I get, if you're not in NASCAR, obviously you're not going to like a movie all about NASCAR. But if you do like NASCAR, this movie is perfect. And Talladega Nights, you didn't have to care about the racing quite as much to still enjoy and laugh at it. This isn't like a laugher necessarily. It's still overall a sports drama, even though there's plenty of funny moments in it.
The wheelchair race?
The wheelchair race I think is great. The rental car race, which actually happened, is actually a thing that's happened in NASCAR. It was great. I thought when it comes to a sports movie, especially because a large number of sports movies are based off true stories, you have to get the story accurate. Now, not all of them are. Like Talladega Nights didn't actually happen. You didn't actually have Will Ferrell and Sacha Baron Cohen running to try to finish the race and diving to the finish line. But when you see like Miracle, or you see
Rudy,
or you see Friday Night Lights, or any of the things that are based off actual true stories, you want them to be accurate to what it is. this isn't based off a true story, but they said what great moments of NASCAR around, where it was starting to build up and be fairly popular, at least in the South. We have to be able to do it very well. And as you look into, wow, the ice cream scene actually happened. Wow, racing rental cars actually happens. Wow, Bill France making two drivers drive from the hospital to dinner together actually happened. He actually made Dale Earnhardt and Jeff Bodine, I believe, actually do that leaving the hospital. Like, it's all things that have actually happened within the world, and they've done a good job of putting all that together. I love the music. I think it's like over-the-top, cheesy 80s music, but that very much works. I think it's what very much worked for Top Gun as well. I fully get this is Top Gun on a NASCAR track aspect, but that's what enhances it, because I don't care for the original Top Gun. I probably like Maverick better than the original one. But what I do, and this is, you're going to roll your eyes when I say this, but what I do like about Top Gun is I respect what it did to build certain things in cinema. Like how it helped kind of evolve certain aspects of cinema. And I think this did too. Now, it took a lot from Top Gun, so it's not like it's being super original in certain things that it did. But, I think this continued to help somebody like Tom Cruise, who had already done a couple of really big projects and kind of helped grow him into the 90s and the career that he had. When I look at Tom Cruise, I've said I think he has the best filmography, and this is at the top of it. I totally get that this is at the top for me because I'm a big NASCAR person. The Last Samurai is number 2 because I'm real into Japanese culture. I get that the average person isn't necessarily going to say either one of those two is anywhere near the top. But it's just a movie that hits home for me. It hits home. I watch it with my dad, who's been involved in the automotive industry forever. So there's a reason why it's so high for me, and I get if people don't necessarily like it. But I think the reassessment of it in later time has helped it. I won't say it's a cult classic. I'd say overall it's enjoyed by people, and Tom Cruise it has a massive cast in it to where I wouldn't say cult classic necessarily, but I'm glad it's grown to have the popularity it has after initially not doing much critically and being seen as like, oh, it's just Top Gun, so it's stupid.
You know what's crazy is there's no way in hell Tom Cruise would take this script today. Just thinking about it, like, there's just no way.
Yeah, I mean, he would do something with it moving forward, I think, only because he's done it before. But you're right, if it was a completely new thing, like, hey, do a NASCAR movie.
Yeah.
I'm not doing
Absolutely
a NASCAR
not.
movie. Who's going to do a NASCAR movie?
Unless I get to jump off of it into a helicopter.
Yeah, it just happens to be there's a NASCAR scene or a Formula One scene or something like that in the next Mission Impossible. But no, it's just, this is very much, there are some movies that I think we pick because it's like, these are classics, and I know I'm going to defend them more than other people, but you need to watch them because they're classics. And there's some we put in there because it's like, this is just my kind of movie. So I want people to experience what I enjoy.
You're the most non-Southern Southerner I've ever met, and 2 of the movies you've picked for this series so far have been Days of Thunder and Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, which are just Southern cinephile classics. And so I know deep down inside of your soul and your spirit, you still have that Southern flavor there, even though you hate the flavor of all Southern foods. Let's talk about the production of this film. Filming took place in early 1990 in and around Charlotte and Daytona Beach. It was reportedly a very tense set, as many delays occurred due to arguments on set between major players behind the scenes over how to set up shots. Crew members sat around for long hours as the completion date was postponed a number of times. Filming was completed 3 months later than expected in early May of that year, 3 months later than it had originally been scheduled for. At one point, following the 3rd revision of the shooting schedule in a single day, the unit production manager who represents the studio on the set or location confronted the producers and was told bluntly that the schedule no longer mattered. The film's original budget of $35 million nearly doubled. At that level, it would have had to have made at least $100 million, which was a rare gross at the time to break even. $9 million of the film's budget plus gross percentage went directly to star Tom Cruise, which I don't think this movie works without, by the way. I don't think Tom Cruise can be recast with someone else. Like, I don't think an Alec Baldwin could come in at the time and be looked at as a good Cole Trickle.
Kevin Costner.
I don't think anybody. I just don't know who replaces Tom Cruise in this. Tom Cruise does a really good job at pigeonholing roles that only he can play. Post-production had to be completed in 5 weeks rather than the 5 months it would normally take for such a film due to all of these delays. Days of Thunder was released in the United States on June 27th of 1990 by Paramount Pictures, and it grossed $157 million worldwide against a production budget of that $60 million. It then made $40 million more, according to reports, with its VHS release, which was another way for films to make money. back in the day. The film was nominated for the Academy Award for Best Sound, where it lost out to Dances with Wolves. Almost everything lost out to Dances with Wolves that year. A year after the film's release, the fictional Mellow Yellow sponsorship depicted on Trickle's number 51 car was followed by a real-life sponsorship arrangement. The number 42 Pontiac of Sabco Racing, driven by Kyle Petty, carried the paint scheme from 91 to 94. Mellow Yellow also sponsored the fall race at Charlotte from 1990 to 94.
You know who hates this movie almost more than anybody else? Richard Petty, his dad. He's like the one person who's in the movie, by the way, but he's like the one person that's like, it got nothing right. I think he said this movie got two things right about racing. There's numbers on the cars and they go fast.
That's right.
But everybody else has been very, very high on it. But Richard Petty, for some reason, was just like, I do not like it. I don't know what exactly about it. Maybe whoever they picked. I mean, you see his STP in the racing, but maybe whoever they picked to play somebody kind of like him, he didn't like. I don't know what they did to piss him off. But then it's funny that Kyle Petty ends up getting the
See, Rockstar, my review, much more endearing than that of Richard Petty.
That's a very petty thing to say.
It is. So that's what you need to know about Days of Thunder. Is this a movie you appreciate all these years later? Let us know in the comment section below. And make sure you visit our title sponsor, which would be right there on the side of the Meltdown vehicle. That is MyBookie.
And, of course, you can bet on NASCAR every single week. Go to mybookie.ag. Promo code next round. Play in that sports book where you can bet on NASCAR and all kinds of stuff. Play in the casino, the live casino. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere. Use promo code next round for a first deposit bonus.
Make sure you are subscribed right here to the Meltdown so you never miss a future retro trailer reaction. We appreciate the entire panel here, and we'll see you next time right here with this lovely series.